People down south are experts when it comes to hospitality, and nothing makes guests feel more welcome than a home-baked recipe. For generations, Southern bakers have proudly been sharing their heirloom recipes. And today on Martha Bakes, I'll share a banana cream pie. Have you ever had one that looks quite as beautiful as that one? And a delicious layered coconut cake. Fresh coconut embedded in a delicious Italian meringue. Just an amazing cake. Spoon bread is a popular warm side dish served throughout the South. More pudding than bread, and as light as a soufflé, its main ingredient is cornmeal. And pecan tassies, a recipe I learned way down in Mississippi. They're really a delicious little dessert. All of this and more on Martha Bakes. Bananas took America by storm in the 1880s, with recipes appearing shortly thereafter in every major cookbook across the country. With its irresistible combination of a graham cracker crust layered with vanilla custard filling and thinly sliced bananas, banana cream pie has been a Southern favorite ever since. And I'll show you how to make what I think is just one of the best banana cream pies ever. One vanilla bean split down the middle and scraped, and the whole bean will go in, including all these delicious vanilla bean seeds. So that goes into a saucepan with the bean. Don't lose any of those little vanilla bean seeds. 2 cups of heavy cream and 1½ cups of whole milk. Add 1/2 cup of sugar. Turn your heat to high and stir with a whisk until the mixture comes to a boil and the sugar's all dissolved. So this is the beginning of that lovely vanilla custard. Now in another bowl, prepare your eggs. There are 3 egg yolks and 1 large egg. Whisk the egg yolks with 1/2 cup of cornstarch and 1 cup of sugar. So this is a very thick mixture, and this is what we're going to temper with the hot milk and cream. And it's the eggs and the cornstarch that thicken the custard. So there. So now this is really steaming hot, and with one hand and a ladle, pour some of this hot milk and cream into your egg yolks and cornstarch and sugar mixture. What you're doing is warming the egg yolks so that they won't curdle when introduced to a stronger heat. And I think now's the time to pour this back into the pan. Reduce the heat because you don't really want to scald this cream. Just keep stirring until the whole mixture starts to thicken. This is the custard that will go in the beautifully prepared pre-baked pie crust. So now this is getting to be just the right consistency. And it is the right consistency when a finger drawn through like that, the line stays open. That is the right consistency. So now, pass this whole pot of custard through a sieve. So bananas became popular due to improved transportation and savvy, aggressive marketers. Someone realized that bananas could be easily shipped in an unripe state and ripened in the marketplace. So you see, this has passed through the sieve very nicely. It is a rich, yellow, flavorful vanilla custard. And I suggest covering it with a piece of plastic wrap to prevent a skin from forming. Let it cool for about 4 hours in the refrigerator. Now here's our crust. It's made from 10 graham crackers, 1/4 cup of sugar, and 4 tablespoons of melted butter, then pressed into a 9-inch glass pie dish. Pre-baked at 350 degrees until browned about 25 minutes. Now before you fill it, make sure it is cooled. Make sure your custard is icy cold too, right out of the refrigerator. Oh, by the way, I was surprised to learn that, human beings open bananas from the stem end. It's a little hard to open there. Monkeys open their bananas from the bottom. Very easy to peel from the bottom. And I'm sure those monkeys are just thinking, what do they know? But anyway, it does peel very easily from the bottom. And it does leave you a nice little handle down at the stem end, whichever way you choose. So make sure there are no strings attached and no fibers left. And you'll need anywhere from 6 to 7 bananas. And bananas should be sliced 1/4 inch thick on the diagonal. And these little ends are a little unsightly, so save those for eating. You can eat them while you're making your banana cream pie. And any blemishes like that, well, you don't want to have a dark spot, so I would suggest cutting off any blemishes. Bananas turn brown really fast once they are fully ripened, so use them up. So there we have a nice pile of bananas. And to assemble the pie, spread this custard out in the bottom of your pie crust and shingle bananas all the way around. And just continue shingling all the way around until you have one complete layer, and add custard. So you have custard, banana, custard, banana, custard. So now cover your pie with plastic wrap and refrigerate. And now for the last little thing, I like it plain with whipped cream on top. And piping the whipped cream makes it real pretty. You can do squiggles all over it, and more squiggles, or stars, whatever you feel like doing. But it looks so pretty and so festive. What a great looking pie. My recommendation, make 2 of these pies, because everyone you serve will be asking for seconds. Legend has it that coconut cake originated on the tropical islands of Jamaica and Cuba before being introduced to the American South through port cities like New Orleans and Charleston. Because I believe you can never have too much coconut when it comes to this cake, my version is loaded with it. 1 cup of sweetened packaged shredded coconut should be in a processor, and just grind it up quite fine. You could chop it with a knife if you don't have a processor. I think that's enough, yes. And just put the whole amount right into your flour, which is 3½ cups of all-purpose flour. Add a teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So it's quite a lot of baking powder. But this is a heavy batter with the coconut and the coconut milk. Looks so good. Dry ingredients, and you'll need 1½ cups of coconut milk. Cream together 3 sticks of butter. Into the butter, add 2 2/3 cups of sugar. So this is a sweet, delicious cake. And 2/3. Let that get nice, light, and fluffy. Measure out 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Quite a lot of vanilla, but this is a flavorful cake. And coconut milk like this that I took out of the can, but you could make it at home by combining equal parts of water and shredded fresh or desiccated coconut meat. Simmer the mixture until it gets foamy and then strain it. Now add the eggs, 4 large eggs and 4 large egg whites. Now, coconut milk, which is unsweetened and it's really water and coconut meat, it should not be confused with coconut cream, which is made with 1 part of water and 4 parts of coconut meat, and oftentimes with sugar included. So make sure it's coconut milk. Okay, so now on low speed, incorporate the dry ingredients, which includes that ground up coconut, with the coconut milk. I'm sure you all remember the best coconut cake you ever did eat. I've had wonderful coconut cakes in Charleston, South Carolina, and I had a wonderful, wonderful coconut cake on the island of St. Croix. Now we have 2 9-inch square pans that have been buttered, floured, and then the bottoms lined with parchment squares. And try to divide the batter as evenly as possible. This has a lot of leavening in it. Remember, it has that good amount of baking powder, so they will rise. Just spread the cake. And this can go right into a preheated 350-degree oven. Bake, rotating the pans halfway through the baking time, about 45 to 50 minutes. Here are our cake layers, beautifully baked. They are chilled, and the frosting is an Italian meringue, which is a little different from Swiss meringue and a little different from French meringue. Italian meringue is made by adding cooked sugar syrup to firmly whipped egg whites and then beating the mixture until it cools. So into half a cup of water, add 1.5 cups of sugar. So bring that to a boil, then add 3 tablespoons of corn syrup. This will help keep the frosting very, very light and fluffy. You're going to heat this till 238 degrees. And in the meantime, you can start beating your egg whites with a pinch of cream of tartar and a teaspoon of vanilla and a pinch of salt. And we're using 6 large egg whites at room temperature in a clean bowl with a clean beater. And I'm going to keep that going on low. You should have a candy thermometer on hand, and remember it's 238, which on a thermometer is soft ball stage. So while the syrup is heating up, we can take some of the dome off this cake. This will help make the cake sit very nice and straight. So we've reached 238 degrees. Turn off your heat, and in a slow stream, pour your sugar syrup right into the egg whites that are beaten till they're light and fluffy. I also have some freshly shaved coconut with the brown skin still attached. I think it looks beautiful on this cake, and that's very easy to do. I'll show you after I frost the cake. So put your layer on the cake stand and put lots of icing all the way up to the edges. Looks like whipped cream, handles like whipped cream, but it's not cream. Put your other layer right on top. And this cake should be eaten pretty quickly. Put billowy mounds of the Italian meringue on top. Looks so pretty. Like a big white cloud. Now, wouldn't you like to be invited to a party if this cake were the centerpiece? I certainly would. Now, decorate with your shreds of coconut, just kind of modern, beautiful, tasty coconut cake. So how do we get this out of this? Well, it's a process. This is a coconut still in its husk, and you look for coconuts that are heavy for their size, but this isn't generally the way a coconut is sold in the grocery store. The coconuts that we get in the store still are peeled of this rough green husk. The easiest way to get the meat out of the shell is to put the whole coconut in the oven and let it crack. Put it in about 350 degrees until you hear the shell cracking. Then extricate the coconut meat and use a peeler like this. That way you have that brown edge and you have fresh, moist coconut as your garnish for the cake. And the liquid that's inside the coconut, don't discard, drink it. That's coconut water, very delicious. Now there is a great looking coconut cake. And I guarantee, well, there I go again, guarantee this cake tastes as wonderful as it looks. Please enjoy. While it's believed to be Native American in origin, spoon bread is a popular warm side dish served throughout the South, to which a variety of things are added. Today, I'm keeping it rather simple. So first, scald 2 cups of whole milk, and then in a separate bowl, whisk together 2/3 of a cup of stone ground cornmeal. Get the best cornmeal you can find, and this is a fine grind. So 2/3 of a cup, a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. So you can just whisk the dry ingredients together. So while the milk is heating, separate eggs. We want 3 large egg yolks and 3 whites. Good fresh eggs, good strong shells. We have a beautiful copper egg white bowl right here, and the egg whites can go right into the bowl. And a pinch of salt into the egg whites. And then we'll beat those. Now, there, the milk is just starting to scald. Scalding milk is just bringing it to a boil and then lowering the heat. You don't want to really boil it, but bring it to a boil. Now, slowly, in a stream, add your dry ingredients. I've turned off the heat. What we're trying to do is pre-cook the cornmeal a little bit before we finish the dish. Now add your butter, 2 tablespoons. Turn the heat back on to kind of low. Now this is very nice and thick. Turn off the heat and add your egg yolks. Just add them slowly. You don't want these to scramble in your cornmeal. Looking good. And so now add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This, in addition to the egg whites, will help the mixture rise. There. Delicious. So now let that cool and then beat your egg whites. The successful beating of egg whites is all in the wrist, according to Julia Child, and I think she's right. And notice I have a nice little collar made out of a damp towel. Well, this is really good arm exercise. And these get folded in the slightly cooled cornmeal mix. And fold that in, lightening the cornmeal. So you're basically making a cornmeal soufflé. Now add more of the egg whites. So now this is a delightful soufflé, and this is wonderful served warm right out of the oven with a piece of roast pork. Many different ways to use this great recipe. So there, that's nice and light. The egg whites are all incorporated. And now this is a 1.5 quart souffle dish, 6.5 inches across and 3 inches tall. Beautiful. Get that right into a 350-degree oven and baked until puffed and golden brown, about 30 to 35 minutes. Now there is the spoon bread, and I've chosen today to serve it with some wonderful oven-roasted quail. I think it's going to be utterly delicious. Wonderful texture. 1 scoop or 2? I think 1.5. What a wonderful consistency, and how good it'll be with those little quail. Like some Southern cooks prefer, you can try adding cheese or collard greens. However you choose to serve it, spoon bread is a great side dish to add to your repertoire. How do you transform a Southern pecan pie with its flaky, buttery crust, crunchy pecans, and maple brown sugar filling into a bite-sized morsel? Pecan Tassies, that's the answer. Their name comes from the Scottish word for small cup, which is exactly what we'll end up with by using these mini muffin tins, which I adore for individual finger desserts. Pecans are the only major nut tree native to North America, and about 80% of pecans are grown in the United States, specifically Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas. I learned this recipe from my friend Dero Puckett, who lived in Jackson, Mississippi. Diro and I have been friends for a very, very long time. Thanks, Diro. Start creaming 4 tablespoons of butter. Add a half a cup of cream cheese, room temperature, a pinch of salt, and 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. This is basically the dough. So easy and so delicious. One last ingredient, the pecans. Grind a half a cup of pecans into a coarse flour. You don't want any big pieces of nuts. That looks good, very tasty. And these handy little mini grinders are fantastic. So it's basically a half a cup of finely ground pecans. There. And you have a simple, mouth-watering, melt-in-the-mouth dough. Scrape down the beater, remove the bowl. This will make anywhere from 18 to 22 tassies. So have 2 mini muffin tins handy. Form 1-inch balls like this and just drop them into little muffin tins. And they're very easy to form with your thumbs. You just make an indentation with your finger, whichever way works for you. But it's basically making little cups which will hold the pecan filling. Make sure you preheat your oven, by the way, to 350 degrees. And this is what they look like as they sit waiting for the filling. They get a little darker, that's the nuts, and they're just waiting to be filled. Now the filling is very, very easy also. You need 1 large egg, and whisk that up with 1 tablespoon of butter. Room temperature, please. And, oh, I love this part, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now, I don't know where they got the maple syrup. I guess they had to import it from the north, down in Mississippi. Also, 1/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. Mix this all together. And 3/4 of a cup of toasted pecans. And these I suggest you chop with a very, very sharp knife. And that's it. That's the filling. Each little tassie gets about 1 teaspoon of the filling. And you can make as many of these as you can make, because I guarantee they'll all be eaten at your party. These go right into a 350 preheated oven. Bake these for 20 to 22 minutes. Any longer and you're going to start drying out these beautiful pecan tassies. Into the oven, set the timer. Now, pecan tassies can be stored in single layers in airtight containers at room temperature, actually for up to 3 days. But I suggest you bake them fresh, put them out for your party, and watch them disappear. They're just perfect for a sweet treat, don't you agree? Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Martha Bakes. In a large bowl, combine 3 eggs, 3/4 cup dark brown sugar, 3/4 cup dark corn syrup, 3 tablespoons melted butter, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 4 teaspoons brandy, and 1/4 teaspoon salt. Stir in 2 cups toasted pecans. Pour into a blind-baked pie shell. Bake at 375 degrees, about 45 minutes. Cool before serving.